Welcome to TL Yarn Crafts TV. I'm Tony, your host, and today we'll be learning 3 ways to change color with Tunisian Crochet. The 3 Tunisian Crochet color change techniques we'll be learning in this video are solid stripes, like you can see here, mixed stripes, like you can see in these 4 rows, as well as changing your color in the middle of the row. This is especially good if you're going to be doing any kind of like graphgans, or if you want to do some kind of Fair Isle project. Changing your color in the middle of the row is definitely super important. So we're going to start with doing solid stripes, which I think are the easiest, and I'm going to complete a forward pass, and then on my return pass I'm going to leave it so there are still 2 loops on my hook. So I'm just doing Tunisian simple stitch for this. These color change methods work on pretty much any stitch unless you're doing something fancy like lace work or like a fan stitch. But for your kind of simpler stitches, your moss stitches, your things like that, it's not, it'll work just fine. So I'm doing my return pass, and I'm going to leave 2 loops on my hook, just like this. So if we're doing solid rows, of course we want our forward pass and our return pass to be in the same color. So what I'm going to do now is set up my project so that my next forward pass is going to be in my B color. I'm going to grab that color, it's kind of this silver color, I'm going to lay it over my hook, and I'm going to pull it through those last 2 loops. So I've completed that return pass in gold, and I'm starting my next forward pass in silver. So I'm going to pull up for Tunisian simple stitch as normal to complete that forward pass with our new color. If you have any questions on what forward passes and return passes are, you'll definitely want to check out my Absolute Beginner's Guide to Tunisian Crochet. You can learn this, the basics of it at least, in about 20 minutes, and then come back to this. So I'm completing my return row, and again I'm going to leave just 2 loops on my hook because I'm going to change back to gold. So I'm going to pull that first loop in silver pretty tight so we don't lose our tension. And when you're changing color in Tunisian Crochet, you always want to lock the colors. What I mean by that is when you pull up your gold, you want to lay the silver over and pull up your gold so that these colors are crossing. If you leave your silver over here, leave your silver to the left, and pull your gold up where they're not crossing, you're going to have a giant hole, and we don't want that at all. So we're going to pull the silver over to the right, pull the gold up underneath it, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. Make sure that silver stays nice and tight so you don't have any weird tension on the beginning of your project like I already do. And then we're going to again complete a forward pass and a return pass in the second color. So again, just Tunisian simple stitch, pulling up loops all the way across, maintaining our tension. This is our last stitch on the side. Chain 1 and pull through 2 all the way back. We're going to do that set of stripes again so you can see it. Oops. There we go. Again, we're going to pull our gold to the right so we can lock our colors. Pull our silver up, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. So as you can see, we've got solid stripes here. The forward passes and the return passes are in the same color. And of course you can alternate stripes any length that you want. I would suggest if you're alternating stripes any more than probably 3 to 4 rows, I would cut and change your colors. Because what you're going to end up with, which I can show you after this row, is you've got floats along the side. And those floats can get pretty long and a bit unsightly. So if you're doing like a blanket or something, somebody's toe could easily get stuck in those if the floats are too long. So we're pulling back until there's 2 loops on the hook, pulling the color we're ending with on the side, locking it with our new color, pulling that up and pulling through the last 2. So to show you, here are our floats on the side. You can see where we've locked the yarn each time, but those floats are going to travel up with us unless we were to cut and change the color each time. So again, pulling up for Tunisian simple stitch, to complete our solid rows. And I love the detail, the effect that you can get with this. You can have a lot of fun with it. Do alternating rows all the way up. Do a couple alternating rows at the bottom of your project and then finish with your main color. You can really have some fun with kind of changing colors in Tunisian projects, of course. Alrighty. And that is how you do solid rows, solid color changing rows in Tunisian crochet. I'm going to do a couple more rows of Tunisian simple stitch to give us a bit of a break in our project, and we're going to come back and do alternating rows in Tunisian simple stitch. Moving on to doing alternating rows. So with our alternating rows, what we're essentially doing is we're doing the forward pass in one color and then the return pass in a different color. So your vertical bars are one color and then the stitches filling in behind them, those horizontal bars, are in a different color. This is really, really pretty if you're doing like a variegated yarn with a solid. If you're doing something like really bright with something really fair, you can create like ombre effects with this, which is really, really pretty. I've included a link below for a beautiful ombre pillow that I designed with this technique, and you can find that in my Etsy shop and on my website if you're interested in trying out that technique. So to complete that, what I've done is I clipped my B color from my project so I can start working this part of it. We're going to complete a forward pass up to the last stitch with our A color. So we're pulling up again as for Tunisian simple stitch all the way until our last loop on our project. So now we're at our last loop. Normally we would go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then do our chain one. But we are going to drop our A color and we're going to pull up that last loop with our B color. And then we're going to complete the return pass as normal. Chain one, yarn over, pulling through two all the way back. So our forward pass was in our A color and our return pass is in our B color. That's how you're going to get your vertical bars to be a different color than your horizontal bars. Okay. And then we're going to continue with our silver color and we're going to complete our forward pass with our B color and our return pass with our A color. And I'll show you how we'll change those colors when we get towards the end. So we're nearing the last stitch. We're going to pull up in our B color and then we're going to yarn into our last stitch, drop our B color. We're going to lock them. We're going to wrap them around each other, as we did with color changing with full rows, and then we're going to pull up that last loop with our B color, yarn over, chain one, and do our return pass as normal, pulling through two all the way back. So we can see already that our forward pass here was done with gold, the return pass was done with silver. Here our forward pass was done with silver and our return pass was done with gold. Let's do that again together. So we're doing our forward pass with gold, forward pass with our A color, all the way to the end. Just a couple more. And then we're going to yarn into our last stitch, drop our A color, lock it with our B color, yarn over, and pull that loop up. Yarn over, chain one, and complete our return row as normal. Okay, let's do one more together. Again, going forward with our B color because that's what we have on our hook already. And we're going to be changing to our A color. Yarning into our last stitch, locking our colors, yarn over, pull up that loop, chain one, and complete the return pass as normal. Okay, So that's how you do it, easy peasy. We've got alternating rows, of course completing the forward pass with one color, changing on that last stitch, and completing the return pass with our new color. So I'm going to do a couple rows again just to kind of separate the color changes, and next we are going to do changing colors in the middle of your row. When it comes to changing colors in the middle of the row, what we're trying to accomplish is completing a certain number of stitches with their forward and return passes in the same color, splitting the yarn, so changing colors wherever we need to, and completing the forward and return passes in that new color. So what we're going to do, and again I clipped my silver yarn to kind of bring it up to this part of my project, is we're going to complete 5 stitches in gold and 5 stitches in silver. So 5 in our A color and 5 in our B color. So we've already got 1 stitch on our hook. We're going to do 4 more in our A color, 3 and 4, and we want our next stitch to be silver. So what we'll do is we'll yarn into that stitch, drop our A color, pull up our B color, lay it over, and complete that stitch in our B color. And we're going to complete our forward pass in our B color. Okay. Going into that last stitch, yarn over, pull up that loop, chain 1, yarn over, and we're going to pull through 2. And the way that we'll know that it's time to change back to our A color is when the second loop on our hook, the second loop from where we are on our hook, is a different color. So the second loop, as you can see here, is gold, and the first loop is silver. So we know that the next stitch needs to be gold. What we'll do now is we're going to lock our yarn again so we don't have any holes in our project. I'm going to pull a little bit of tension to tighten up that gold loop so it's nice and tight against the silver one, and I'm going to pull through 2, and I'm going to complete that return pass with gold as normal. Okay, let's do that again together. We're going to do our forward pass halfway up, 5 stitches up with gold. Now we're ready to change to silver. We're going to yarn into that silver stitch. We're going to lock our yarn, lay them over each other, pull up that silver, and complete the forward pass as normal with silver on top of silver. So what we're essentially doing is just changing the colors and completing the stitches as normal. It's so important when you're changing color in the middle of a row to lock the yarn around each other, because what you'll see here, as you can already kind of see, is there's a larger hole between these stitches than usual, than when you're working with a normal color. So to avoid that hole from being there with your finished project, you need to go behind your project, lock your old color with your new color, pull it up, and pull through 2. All right, let's do that a couple more times together. So we're pulling up 5 stitches in gold, 3, 4, and 5. Our next one's going to be in silver. We're going to yarn into the stitch, lock it with our silver, give us a little bit of tension to keep that loop tight, and pull up the loop. Continue down the row to complete your forward pass, yarning into your last stitch, pull up, chain 1, complete your return until the second loop on your hook is a different color, as it is here. Lock your yarn, pull through 2 to complete your return loop, your return pass rather. So as you can see here, we've got a nice clean color change. That's the nice thing about Tunisian crochet as opposed to, say, normal crochet. With Tunisian, and the way these vertical bars are, the way that the stitches are completed, you're going to have very clean color changes when you're doing either flat rows or in the round when you're color changing this way. So if you are creating some kind of image, if you're creating some kind of design, you're going to have very clean color changes, and you don't have to worry about any jagged lines in between your color changes. So that's how you complete your color changes with Tunisian crochet. Thanks so much for watching my video. I'd love to have you subscribe for future tutorials and unboxings because I am always buying things. Also, check me out on Instagram at TLYarncrafts. I post Monday through Friday, including giveaways, works in progress, different things that I've bought, and I also do a weekly feature for anyone who's working on a project that I've created, either from my YouTube videos or from patterns in my shop. Thanks again for checking out this episode of TL Yarn Crafts TV. Leave any comments, any requests for future videos, and I will see you next time.